The rain hadn't stopped all night. It tapped steadily against the apartment windows, filling the silence that stretched across the dimly lit living room. I sat on the couch with a book I wasn't reading, waiting for the front door to open, or not open. My roommate, Ryan, hadn't texted back in hours. When the lock finally clicked and the door creaked open, I looked up. He stepped inside, soaked to the bone, hoodie clinging to his body, jaw tight. He didn't speak. He just stood there, eyes dark and distant, as if the world outside had taken something from him he couldn't name. I swallowed. Rough night. He didn't answer at first. Just kicked his shoes off and dropped onto the other end of the couch like his body had nothing left. I could smell the rain on him, the tension radiating off his shoulders. His chest rose and fell with sharp, controlled breaths, like he was holding something in. "Rachel?" I asked, softer now. That got a response. A bitter chuckle. "We fought. Again. Same shit. Different version." I nodded, trying not to look too eager. Ryan and Rachel had been together for nearly 2 years. I'd seen the cycle repeat more times than I could count. Distance, coldness, then a temporary spark that kept them pretending it was love. But tonight felt different. He looked undone. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. "She said I don't open up. That I don't feel things the way she wants me to." I stayed quiet. He only talked like this when he'd had enough. When his guard cracked open just enough to let a little honesty spill out. "She's not wrong," he murmured. "But I don't know how to be what she needs." "You're not broken, Ryan," I said. "You just don't let people in easily. That's not a flaw." He turned his head toward me. His eyes were bloodshot, but not from crying. He never let himself cry. "Then why does it feel like I ruin everyone I get close to?" I didn't have an answer to that. At least not one I could say without showing too much of myself. I had always felt something for Ryan. Something sharp and quiet and dangerous. He wasn't just my roommate. He was the person I noticed in 100 silent ways. How he always tucked one sock into the other when doing laundry, how he hummed under his breath when frustrated, how he slept with his hand curled under his jaw like a boy trying to shield his dreams. I watched and I felt. And I said nothing. Because he was straight. Because he had a girlfriend. Because I was the safe one, his emotional first aid, not his lover. But tonight, he didn't look at me like just a roommate. He leaned back slowly and let his head rest against the couch. His voice was almost a whisper. "You ever feel like you can't breathe unless someone else makes it easier?" I blinked. "Sometimes." "You do that for me," he said, eyes still closed. "You don't even try, but you do." A knot twisted in my chest. I forced my voice steady. "I'm here for you, Ryan. You know that." He opened his eyes, looked at me, really looked. Like he was searching for something he wasn't ready to name. Then, slowly, he shifted. The cushions between us sank as he moved closer, until his shoulder brushed mine. His warmth radiated through the fabric of my shirt. He didn't speak again for a long time. I didn't move. The thunder rolled far in the distance. In the soft light from the kitchen, his profile was sharp and vulnerable. He let his head fall gently onto my shoulder, like it belonged there. My heart slammed in my chest, but I didn't pull away. I couldn't. We sat like that for what felt like hours. "I don't want to be alone tonight," he said finally. "You're not." "No. I mean," his voice broke, barely above a breath. "Can I sleep here? With you? Just here." My hand hovered in the air for a moment before I let it rest lightly on his back. His body eased into mine like it had been waiting for that permission. He whispered, "You calm me down. You always have." The line between us had blurred so quietly that I wasn't sure if it had ever really been there. And I wasn't sure I wanted it back. The next morning, sunlight sliced through the curtains, but the warmth didn't reach the space between us. Ryan was still in my bed, his back turned, his breath slow and steady. I hadn't slept. All night I stayed still, one arm barely touching his waist, afraid that if I moved, the spell would break. Eventually, he stirred. He sat up without a word, rubbed his face, then stood, walking into the kitchen like nothing about the night before had been strange. No mention of the way he curled into me. No acknowledgement of the quiet desperation in his voice when he'd asked to stay. I followed him in, barefoot on cold tiles. Sleep okay? He poured coffee like I'd asked him about the weather. Yeah. Thanks. His walls were back up, smooth, effortless, practiced. But I saw the cracks. The way his hands trembled just slightly as he reached for a mug. The way his eyes refused to meet mine. So, I said slowly, what now? He shrugged. Nothing. It was just a bad night. Just a bad night. I let the words settle between us like smoke. I should have left it alone. I should have nodded, pretended we hadn't crossed a line. But I couldn't. Ryan, you asked to sleep in my arms. He paused mid-sip. I was tired. I didn't mean anything by it. Liar. His voice held too much weight for it to be meaningless. But I didn't push. I couldn't force him into a truth he wasn't ready to face. The days that followed slipped into a strange rhythm. Ryan didn't bring up Rachel. He came home late, quieter than usual. He didn't talk about the fights. He didn't talk about anything. But the nights changed. He started sitting closer to me on the couch. Just a little. Our arms brushed more often. Our silences grew heavier, charged with things unsaid. And then one night, he didn't even ask. He just slid into bed beside me. No words. Just his body curling toward mine, hand grazing my chest before settling there like it belonged. I didn't dare breathe too loudly. By the third night, I stopped pretending it was accidental. We didn't talk about what we were doing. We just kept doing it. The secrecy wrapped around us like a blanket. And with every night he stayed, with every moment he leaned into me instead of her, the guilt twisted deeper. He still hadn't broken up with Rachel. He still kissed her, probably. But he held me like I was his anchor. One night, after another silent dinner and a lazy stretch on the couch, Ryan finally spoke. I feel more like myself around you than I ever did with her. I didn't know what to say. It felt dangerous to hope. He leaned his head back against the wall, exhaling slowly. It's like, I'm not pretending when I'm with you. I studied his profile, the small scar above his eyebrow, the way his jaw tightened when he said something true. Then stop pretending, I whispered. He turned his head toward me. What if I don't know what I want? Then start by being honest with yourself. He hesitated, eyes searching mine. Then, without warning, he kissed me. It wasn't lustful. It wasn't rushed. It was slow and scared and hungry for something neither of us could name. His lips trembled against mine, and I felt it, not just in my mouth, but in my chest. A long-buried ache rising to the surface. When he pulled back, the air between us felt electric. But he ruined it with one sentence. This didn't happen. I froze. Ryan. I need space. He stood up, grabbed his keys, and left. Just like that. I sat in the silence, heartbeat thundering in my ears. The kiss still lingered, but his absence burned worse. That night, he didn't come home. The next day, neither did he. I didn't hear from him for 2 days. Not a call. Not a text. I kept checking my phone, replaying that kiss, replaying his voice saying it wasn't real, even though every cell in my body screamed that it was. When the front door finally opened again, I didn't rush to meet him. I stayed on the couch, arms folded. He stepped in slowly, looking more tired than ever. Hair messy, eyes red-rimmed. He didn't look at me. Just set his bag down and mumbled, "She asked if there's someone else." My chest went cold. "What did you say?" He finally looked up and his voice cracked. I didn't answer. The silence between us stretched wide. And for the first time, I wasn't sure which one of us had been betrayed. The apartment felt colder after Ryan returned. He didn't say where he'd been those 2 nights. I didn't ask. Not because I didn't want to know, but because I was afraid of the answer. Afraid he'd say Rachel's, and that I'd have to pretend it didn't gut me. He moved around like a stranger in his own home. Quick showers, quiet meals, eyes that never quite landed on mine. The easy rhythm we'd built was gone, replaced by distance that stung more than silence ever could. One evening, I found him sitting in the dark kitchen, nursing a drink he probably didn't even want. He looked worn, like something inside him had unraveled and he was too tired to tie it back together. "Are you okay?" I asked. He chuckled dryly. "That's a big question, Liam. I'm not asking for the polished version. I just want the truth." He swirled the liquid in his glass. "Rachel said I'm different now. That I flinch when she touches me. That I zone out when she talks. Is she wrong?" He didn't answer. Just kept staring into the amber swirl like it held a map to a place where none of this was happening. "I don't know what the hell I'm doing," he finally said. "Everything feels twisted. Like I'm walking through fog, bumping into things I didn't know were there." "Things like me?" I asked, voice quieter than I meant it to be. He looked up. There was no defense in his face, just exhaustion. "You make me feel things I shouldn't. You didn't seem to mind feeling them when you kissed me." "I didn't plan that." "You didn't stop it either." That broke something in him. He slammed the glass down, liquid sloshing over the edge. "You think this is easy for me? You think I know what I am? One minute I'm fine and the next I'm thinking about your hands, your mouth, how you make me feel safe and sick at the same time." I stood still. The words landed like confessions, not accusations. "You could have told me that before disappearing." He sighed. "I thought if I left, maybe I could undo it. Maybe I could go back to how things were." "And did you?" "No," he exhaled. "Because the second I was away from you, I realized I didn't want to go back." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was loaded, raw. That night, he didn't go to his room. We didn't speak as we made our way to mine. No dramatic declarations, no apologies. Just skin against skin, slow breathing, and all the unspoken tension that had built between us pouring out in touches, in gasps, in aching honesty. It wasn't just sex. It was a breaking point. A surrender. He held on to me like I was the only thing tethering him to reality. And when it was over, he didn't say anything clever or try to laugh it off. He cried. Not loud, but enough that I felt his body shake against mine. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone," he whispered. "I know. I don't even know what this means. You don't have to. But I can't stop wanting you." It should have felt like a victory. It didn't. It felt like standing on a ledge, holding hands with someone who might let go at any second. The next morning, he was gone again. No note. No text. Just a cold pillow and the smell of him still on my sheet. I told myself not to panic. But the hours crawled. By nightfall, I'd convinced myself it was over, that maybe he'd run straight back to her, and I was just the mistake he needed to feel something before crawling back into his normal. Then the front door opened. Ryan stood there, drenched from the rain, again. His face was unreadable. "She knows," he said. I felt my stomach drop. "Rachel." He nodded. "She found some of my texts to you. Nothing explicit, but enough." I stared at him, unsure whether to be angry, scared, or relieved. "She screamed for an hour. Called me a coward. Said I'd been lying to both of us. Was she wrong?" He looked at me like he wanted to say no, but couldn't. I told her I didn't have answers. That I never planned this. That it just happened. And now? She left. Took her stuff. Said she'd call when she stopped hating me. The rain hammered the windows again, like it had that first night. He stepped closer, eyes bloodshot and unsure. "I don't know if I deserve comfort right now. But I'm still here. That has to mean something." I didn't move. Didn't speak. Just watched him stand in front of me, messy, broken, beautiful, and wonder if the truth we'd found between us would be strong enough to survive the damage we'd done. Ryan didn't leave that night. He stayed. He curled beside me again, the way he had before, But this time, there was no hesitation, no unspoken denial of what it meant. His fingers traced circles on my bare shoulder, like he needed proof I was still real. I let him. I let myself believe, if only briefly, that maybe this was what coming together looked like. That the storm had passed. But in the morning, the air shifted. He sat at the edge of my bed, shirt in his hands, shoulders tense. The sun lit the bruise-like shadows under his eyes. I watched him in silence, waiting for words I already feared. "I feel like I've ruined everything," he muttered. "You didn't ruin anything that wasn't already cracked," I replied. He flinched at that, like the truth hurt more than the lie would have. "She didn't deserve this," he said. "Rachel. She was trying. I just stopped showing up. And I didn't even notice when it happened. Because you were showing up here. That's the problem." He looked over his shoulder. "You made it too easy to feel safe." I sat up. "So now I'm the villain?" His eyes softened. "No. You were the only part of my life that ever made sense." "Then why does it feel like you're about to disappear again?" He didn't answer. Instead, he stood, walked over to the window, and stared out like he was trying to find something. Clarity, maybe, or the version of himself he'd lost along the way. "I can't stay here, Liam." My throat went dry. "So that's it." He turned to me, regret etched into every line of his face. "I need to figure out who the hell I am without dragging you through my wreckage. I didn't ask for perfect, Ryan. I just wanted real. You got real. Too real." I wanted to shout. To tell him he was being a coward. That love, whatever ours was worth the mess. But I didn't. Because I saw it in his eyes. This wasn't about me. It was about the war he was fighting inside, and I couldn't win it for him. The next few days were quiet. He packed slowly. Methodically. Like each item he folded was a memory he didn't know how to carry. We didn't touch again. Not once. The last morning, I watched him zip up his duffel and pause at the door. "I don't know what this was," he said. "But I'll never forget it." I stepped closer, aching. "I wasn't a phase, Ryan." "I know," he whispered. "That's what scares me." He left. Just like that. No grand goodbye. No promises. Just the sound of the door closing and a silence that spread through the apartment like grief. In the weeks that followed, I moved through routines like a ghost. Every corner of the place reminded me of him. His laugh echoing from the bathroom, the clink of his spoon against a mug, the shape of his back beneath my sheet. Even the air felt thinner without him. People asked questions I didn't want to answer. I told them Ryan moved out. No details. No drama. How do you explain falling in love with someone who was never supposed to love you back? How do you explain wanting them anyway? Then one afternoon, a postcard arrived. No return address. No long message. Just a photo of a lake somewhere I didn't recognize and 5 words scribbled in black ink. "You were my calm, Ryan." I stared at it for hours. Not crying. Not smiling. Just holding it like proof that it hadn't all been in my head. He remembered. He knew. Maybe it wasn't a happy ending. Maybe there'd never be one. But in the quiet that followed, I realized something. Not all infidelity is betrayal. Sometimes it's the symptom of a truth someone's too scared to live. Sometimes loving someone is the most honest sin of all.